So I'm back here today to fulfill a fan request for a review that came a few months ago, even though I'm only getting around to it now, and I do apologize for it. And it's these guys. Now, yes, they're in a package, but this is the Wave 3 Transformers Power of the Primes Prime Master assortment. And these guys are going to be our focus in the latest GotBot True review. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Dennis Bolton, aka GotBot. As always, please like, comment, share, and of course subscribe. It helps me so much. It makes all the difference in the world. Check out Machinery of Man, the Everything Factor, Transformers Collectors NL, and me everywhere. And this is Wave 3 of the Power of the Primes Prime Master assortment. Now, these little guys are kind of upgraded pretenders. Now, yes, I know they all have the names of primes, but come on. Come on. Like, is Bomburst here really going to put you in the mind of Megatronus? No, but it's going to put you in the mind of Bomburst. Then, of course, we have Bludgeon, who I really doubt is going to put you in the mindset of Quintus. Maybe it does. I don't know. And then my absolute favorite, perhaps my favorite name of any Transformer ever, Octopunch. Because, you know, can punch 8 times, is an octopus. I don't know, I just love Octopunch, and I love the fact that his kind of robot mode is sort of like a scuba suit, like an old-timey scuba suit at that. This guy's great. I love this guy. Anyway, we're going to try and get through these pretty quickly. Like I said, I was requested to do it, so hey, why not? I'm going to kind of also address a very interesting little thing concerning the inner robots for 2 of these. Enough of me babbling on about these guys. Let's head over to the table and take a closer look at them. So the request that I got to look at the Wave 3 Prime Masters from the Transformers Power of the Primes line, it came 3 months ago from friend of the channel, MWG. Always a lot to say, always great conversations. And the request was made there, so that kind of solidified it for me. What can I say? Here are the 3 packages. We're going to just look at each one pretty quickly, because they're pretty similar. Starting with good old Megatronus here. And you can see what the Prime Master looks like down there. Of course, we have the decoy armor, or pretender shell, if you will, up top. And that is the pretender known as, or the decoy shell known as, according to the product shot on the back, Bomburst. You know, it is what it is. For me, this is not going to be Megatronus. This is going to be Bomburst. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. On to Quintus, who, of course, is the creator of the Quintessons. Great story about how all that sort of came to be in the Covenant of Primus. And the decoy armor, or pretender shell here, is none other than Bludgeon. I find it interesting, like, Quintus I don't think is really recognized as, like, oh, bad guy, but yet his decoy shell is a bad guy. Like, for Megatronus, it makes sense. Bomburst, Decepticon, Megatronus, the original Decepticon, the Fallen, you know, it is what it is. But there you go, product shot on the back. Wonderful. Excellent. And last but not least, my favorite of every single one of these Prime Masters, of all the Type Masters, my absolute favorite would have to be none other than Solus Prime? No, not Solus Prime, although I would love to have like a nice representation of her. There was the third-party one like a couple of years back. I didn't get it at the time. I really wish that I did, because I've sort of been kind of like amassing my primes, so to speak. I think I kind of looked at everybody I have in maybe when I looked at Submarauder, maybe when I looked at Landmine and Alphatron. I'm not sure now, but like, I'd really like to have a proper version of Solus Prime with the Forge. I think that'd be fantastic. fantastic. Nevertheless, this is my favorite, not because it's going to be my Solus Prime. It's not. It's my favorite because the decoy armor, or pretender shell, if you will, is Octopunch. And I think that Octopunch is, bar none, the best name in all of Transformers because it's that mix of an octopus punching you, or punching you 8 times with its 8 arms. I love Octopunch. I think it is one of the most creative, dynamic, and funny, yet effective names that they ever come up with. I absolutely dig it. Now what's really kind of funny and ironic, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, is the little inner robot here is actually colored more accurately for the inner robot of Bludgeon, and the inner robot of Bludgeon, ironically, is colored more accurately for the inner robot of Octopunch. Go figure. Nevertheless, there's the packaging onto our figures themselves. And here are our 3 little Decepticon pretender warriors here, if you will. And you might notice that all of them have accessories. Bludgeon is holding like a blaster and a little sword. Bomburst is holding a little blaster. And Octopunch actually has a big blaster and a small blaster. So where did those things come from? Well, friend of the channel, Dragonfly, not long ago sent me a couple of little upgrades for Swoop and Grimlock from Power of the Primes. Actually, I sort of talked about some upgrade kits there pretty recently, but he sent those along, and it certainly wasn't full kits or anything like that. It was just a blaster for Grimlock and the a set of missiles for Swoop, and I'm really, really happy to have that. But also in the bag, he said there was something else, and it was like a bunch of these little tiny blaster things. The hands seem to basically be 3mm slots, and the pegs on these little swords and blasters seem to be 3mm, at least for the most part. A couple of them are a little bit loose in the hand, but they all hold pretty great. In fact, they had enough to kind of fit out the entire wave 1, 2, and 3 of these little guys, so that they all now actually do have blasters. Of course, as we all know, they have sections on the back that can come off and become blasters in their hands, but now we have dedicated blasters for them. And each one of these is, of course, a piece of decoy armor or a pretender shell, and each one of these, as you probably know by now, opens up to reveal a smaller robot inside. So let's start off with the one that I think is perhaps the most accurate, and probably gets the say highest mark out of the 3 of these, that being Megatronus and Bomburst. And really, this is for the most part a mold reuse. It is exactly the same, right down to the same kind of claw hook accessory on the back there as Skullgrin, and you'll notice I've given Skullgrin a blaster and a sword there. The only thing that, of course, is different is the kind of main front section with the head and the chest and the, I guess, legs. The front of the legs, anyway. That's newly molded and unique between the 2 figures. But it's enough that, really, if you're not paying too much attention, you're not going to notice that the rest of the mold is really the same. You would probably notice that the claw weapon thing on the back is the same, but that's about it. Taking him out of it, we of course have, same here as we always have. If you want, you can remove this from the back. There's a little peg on it so it can be held in the hand. We've seen that before. The transformation is up over the top and down like this, with a little handle that flips down, so now it could be held by Deluxe class or Voyager class or Leader class figures, even by Legends class if you're so inclined. But opening that back up again and bringing it up like this, the only thing left to do here. By the way, in terms of paint apps, for being a representation of Bomburst, this is like a 9.75. It is pretty much perfect compared to the original G1 toy. And I have to say the toy because I don't think Bomburst appeared in the program. Now, I do admit that one could argue that the frame of reference should be the original comics, where Bomburst did appear, but I feel like that was such a variation on color that this is one time where we would kind of go with the toy. So the shell, perfect. The little inner robot, a bit of another story. First, it doesn't turn into a plane like it should, and there's no blue on it like there should be. When you open this up, you have a little gray inner robot, for the most part anyway. I guess it works all right. Yes, you could do some blue custom paint on basically the body of that little inner robot, and I guess the feet by rights, to make it more accurate to what was originally inside Bomburst. But hey, I don't think there's really any way that you're going to be able to turn this guy into a plane. That being said, before we get the little robot out, in terms of articulation, there's nothing. The arms go around, and that's it. Nothing at the head, feet, anything. So, once again, opening this up, we can take out the little inner robot. The one and only Megatronus, who has nice silver paint on the face. Besides that, the body seems to be a mix of just light gray and dark gray plastics. Ball joint at the head and the arms, as always, pinned at the hips and the knees. And for doing the conversion, we again flip it over, and I guess that's supposed to be the symbol of Megatronus. Of course, you know me by now. My going version of Megatronus is not going to be that little Prime Master. It's either going to be the Fallen from the film, as imperfect as it is, or the Covenant of Prime version. This would make a really cool toy as well. But for now, the Voyager class Fallen figure from Revenge of the Fallen is my going version of Megatronus. Maybe it's not for you, but it is for me. Which is precisely why I put the little robot of Megatronus back inside. I close this up, and I content myself with having a diminutive, though updated version of Bomburst. Of course, that's not the only one we have. We also have this colorful Decepticon tyrant, Bludgeon. Now, before we go on with him, just to kind of give the final score there for Bomburst, I said 9.75 for the paint apps. The articulation, it's like any of them. I guess it's average. I guess it's a 5 for what these things are, but truth is, it's like a 2. I mean, it's not great articulation. And like conversion, again, like a 2 by rights, but I guess it's average for them. It's about a 5. Nothing special. So its strength comes in its look and paint apps. It is a fine update to Bomburst if you're into the Prime Masters and Titan Masters. If you're not into him, he's not going to change your mind, nor is this guy. But again, I can tell you now, the articulation, the conversion, exactly the same as we've seen before. The paint apps for this guy, I'm going to say that they're about a 9.5. 9, maybe also 9.75, but I'm going to say about a 9.5 because the purple on the feet should by right still be like a yellowy color. The purple on the arms should be it should be there, but it should have a little of the orangey yellow down kind of over the front. The molding here, of course the head is new, the chest, the front of the legs is new. The rest of it is pretty much a reuse of the Wave 1 Vector Prime. And again, you'll notice that both of these guys have some of those like custom armaments, so to speak, that were provided to me by Dragonfly. These guys look different, but they're basically the same, taking him out of it. This is a case where, very much like with Vector Prime and Metal Hawk there, I have the Deluxe Class Metal Hawk. So that is my version of Metal Hawk outside of his Pretender shell. And of course, that's Metal Hawk in his Pretender shell. This is a very similar case where This will kind of represent my Bludgeon in his Pretender shell, even though I know that the Decepticon Pretender shells were larger. But outside of his Pretender shell, my representation of Bludgeon will still be the Revenge of the Fallen version that I looked at in episode 231. And this does turn into a green tank, just as the G1 smaller inner robot of Bludgeon should turn into. So, like I dig that. I do. Taking him back out of it. Again, if you wanted to do the transformation, you would take the little custom things out of the hands, put the hands down by the side. You would turn this over and bring that cannon piece up over. You would flip down the little handle there, and now you have the blaster that larger figures can wield. This whole piece can come up. There's a little 3mm peg down right here, and Bludgeon himself can kind of hold his own cannon as a blaster. I don't need to do that because I have these little custom pieces, thankfully. And then we come to the inner robot, which of course is Quintus. Now, the inner robot by rights should be colored with sort of like a reddish body, I suppose, maybe a purplish body, so to speak, and green legs and arms. What we have inside here matches the decoy armor of the Pretender shell, but it is not colored really that accurately. Well, I guess the body is, but the arms and legs should have been green, I guess, by rights. But hey, this isn't the little inner robot of Bludgeon anyway, is it? Because as we all know, it's Quintus. And of course, this is Quintus. How could you think it's anybody else? Pinned at the hips and the knees. We can get in a seated position. Same ball joint at the head and arms as before. No paint on the face. That's a shame here. We fold over and we get this that I suppose is supposed to represent Quintus, I guess. And forgetting about the Liege Maximo on the next page, which I already looked at when I looked at Skullgrin. This is my idea of Quintus from the Covenant of Primus. You look at that kind of artistic rendition of him and the Prime Master and spitting image, isn't it? Same thing, no mistaking it at all. Who are we kidding? The truth of the matter is, this is a case of taking the smaller inner robot and placing it back inside the larger one, closing it up, and forever having a little Pretender version of Bludgeon. Now you'll notice that I'm not putting the little Quintus robot in there just yet, because we do have one more to look at. My favorite one, that of course being the Marauder of the Deep. None other than Solus Prime and Octopunch. And this is pretty good. I did do some custom paint work on this guy. Most notably, I put yellow around the wrist and a little bit of yellow up here on the bicep. Again, armed up with those little custom accessories. The helmet here does not come off to reveal like the weird, I don't know, organic type of head thing in there. The little robot inside of Octopunch was supposed to turn into a crab, and it had again like a purpley body with the legs and arms being more of an orangey color. It's closer to the robot that's inside of the Power of the Prime's Bludgeon, our representation that we just looked at of Quintus. Again, not perfect, but it's the closest. Because I did a little bit of paint work, and because the inner robot here actually looks like these colors, purple and green, which is closer to the colors that should be of the robot inside Bludgeon, go figure, I'm going to say that the paint apps for this one are really they're about an 8, I guess, roughly. Like, you know it's Octopunch, but it's not a perfect Octopunch by any stretch of the imagination. The articulation exactly the same, nothing here except the arms can go all the way around, and the conversion, this piece can flip up over and you can go down like this. I don't know what this would become. Put that handle handle down, and this could be, is it supposed to be like a stingray type of thing? I don't know. I don't know what you could even call this. An axe? I don't know. It's definitely the weirdest. I guess putting that down, you would say, hey, Octopunch is a organic submarine? I don't know. Nevertheless, it's, you know, outside of the paint, it's no different than any of these other ones. We open up the decoy armor or pretender shell like this, and of course we're going to take out Solus Prime. And Solus has a painted face. I guess technically, I'm not going to say she's colored correctly, she's not, but like at least her kind of recognized colors are there, being the purple and the greenish. You fold up, and I guess this is the symbol of Solus Prime. Maybe, I guess. Moves exactly the same as all the other ones, with the ball joint at the head and the arms, and can get in a seated position. Ah, yes, and yet again, using the Covenant of Primus as our go-to. This, of course, is Solus Prime, and it looks same thing, right? I'd like to have actual primes. I keep saying it. Somebody's got to give them to me eventually. Now, the MMC version, I think it was MMC, I think it was in the reformatted line. The Salvia Primorion, I think it's how it's called, was supposed to be their version of Solus Prime. I think somebody can confirm that for me. Granted, that doesn't exactly look like this either, but I could have really bought into that as a version of Solus Prime, and I could have even bought it as a deluxe size. Like, I'd have been cool with that. Nevertheless, I do try to make things as accurate as I can, and while the Prime Masters will never represent the Primes for me, they can do a respectable job of representing the Pretenders. And I'm going to do the unthinkable now. The unfathomable. I'm going to put this Prime Master in Bludgeon because it's more accurate for the inner robot of Bludgeon. And I'm going to put this Prime Master in Octopunch for the same reasoning. Ooh, if I can, maybe it won't fit in Octopunch. Maybe I had the legs bent. And here we have all of what I would call my modern day Pretenders. Each one of the decoy armor or Pretender shells does have at least one, if not two, of those little accessories that Dragonfly provided to me. I really appreciate that. It's just a little added finishing touch. On the Autobot side of things, I don't have another version of what are their names? Landmine and Cloudburst. I can't even remember his name. I don't have other versions of those two. I just have another version of Metalhawk. I'm fine with that. Whatever. Are there other Autobot ones that could have been done? Yeah, sure. And who knows what we'll get in the future. On the Decepticon side of things, I don't have another version of Submarauder or Octopunch or Bomburst. I do, of course, have another version of Bludgeon. That's what I'm going to use. And I do have another version of Skullgrin that I just very recently got. I've never looked at this mold on the channel before. I'm going to pretty soon. I'm just waiting on something, and I'll explain that when the time comes that we take a look at him. Overall, for what they are, I think that these little, like, Prime Masters and their decoy shells, I think they're fine for what they are. If you're not into the simplicity, none of them are any better or worse than any of the others. If you like one, I think you would probably like them all. If nothing else, they're a pretty colorful and interesting little addition to just sort of accent your collection shelf. And here we are once again, and of course the easiest one to kind of get out of the way is Bomburst. He is very accurate. Then we have Bludgeon and Octopunch. And I find it very interesting that the inner robot of this Prime Master really matches the inner robot of this Pretender better. And the inner robot for this Prime Master really matches the inner robot paint scheme wise of this Pretender better. So I changed them out. Hey, why not? They're my figures. I can do what I want with them, right? They're alright. I mean, they're not groundbreaking. They're not super exciting. I mean, if you like the Prime Masters, then hey, Wave 3 is worth getting. If you aren't really into them, then these aren't going to change your mind. Though I will say this. Absolutely everybody needs a little Octopunch in their life. Let me know what you think about the Wave 3 Prime Masters. You know I love to hear your thoughts on these little guys. Thanks for dropping by, for giving me some of your extremely valuable time, and I very much look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit right here inside the videos.